Are we live? It looks like we're live. What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic whenever you're watching this. I want to thank each and every one of y'all for stopping by and hanging out. If you've donated to the channel, either through a super chat or a super thanks, thank you very much. I don't see all of the super thanks, so thank you in advance or in the rears for that. Also, if you're watching this and you're getting inundated with ads and things like that, shoot a comment below and let me know. There's a lag between the live show and it going up for like just normal watching it as a video. And when YouTube adds ads, it can add a lot. So anyway, just let me know. I usually try to clean those up within about the first few days of the show going live. So there's at least that. So I wanted to ask you guys, this is something that kind of got on my nerves a little bit lately. Jeep just did a reveal, and in the reveal, one of the vehicles that they were showcasing was this EV, basically two boxes and two circles looking thing. I don't even know what it was called because that's about as much attention as I gave it. It's one of these EVs that it's basically it's like a Jeep. Remember the Jeep Commander? It looks like a version of the Jeep Commander, but electric, right? Now, I don't have anything necessarily against electric vehicles, not in the basic sense of it. It's just another powertrain to me. And to me, an electric vehicle is just another challenge on how can I make it faster. Again, it's just another powertrain. But it's the fact that we keep getting this powertrain jammed down our throats. So one of the blurbs on that two boxes and two circles thing that they decided to make like a headliner for their release was the fact that they were calling it a zero emissions vehicle. Now, I've got a little bit of a problem with getting the facts wrong with certain things. And listen, I'm not one to let facts ruin a good story myself. However, when it comes to things like this, things that matter, you could call it an ultra low emissions. You could call it an outsourced emissions vehicle. You can call it a lot of different things, but you cannot call it a zero emissions vehicle. And even if you charge the thing with solar panels, and the solar panels majestically and miraculously just showed up out of the blue, you still couldn't call it zero emissions because these vehicles use coolants and lubricants that are derived from petrochemical products. That's right. In some cases, you have gear oil, brake fluid, other types of lubricants, oils, all kinds of different caustic things that will absolutely be considered to be toxic to the environment. Isn't that what an emission really is at the end of the day? I mean, it's playing with word meanings and values. And that's the problem that I have. I keep hearing about zero emissions vehicles that are not zero emissions. Again, these are outsourced emissions, or if nothing else, that it is basically a virtue signal that is not based in reality. And that's the sad thing. Somebody's going to buy one of these things thinking that they're doing something great for the environment, not realizing the fact that they're driving something that has literally the aerodynamic coefficient of drag of a brick, and they are going to have to absolutely watch their P's and Q's when they're charging this thing, lest it burst into flames. And see, this is the other thing. Is it zero emissions when you can't put the fire out because you have a thermodynamic runaway condition? I don't know, but I would say that any firefighter that shows up to the scene would say that his or her job just got infinitely harder because you cannot put out the fire on one of these zero emissions vehicles with water, which is hysterical. Water, the byproduct of burning hydrogen, hydrogen fuel as an internal combustion thing, although that's kind of hysterical too, because where do you get the hydrogen from? Well, regular viewers of the show would know. You actually get hydrogen from methane, not from the hydrolysis of water. That takes too much energy, and because a hydrocarbon, hydro being the hydrogen that you're looking for, is a lot easier bond to break when it's in a long, stringy chain, the way that hydrocarbons are. Yeah, that's where you get your zero emissions hydrogen fuel from. Methane. Ha! Anyway, getting back to it, I found it to be a little bit perturbing, if you will. It's, to me, Jeep hanging on this EV tip without doing it the right way. There's a right way to do it. And the right way to do EV is to say, look, EV has all the torques. You don't have to worry about snapping transmissions or engines and windowing blocks and stuff like that. That's where EVs really shine, is in the creepy crawly stuff. Yes, they're good at that too. They're not just a one-trick pony going fast. Lots of different ways you can spin it. Just don't try to hang it on some kind of a, I don't know, new country music style of soft pandering to this zero emissions doctrine that I keep hearing over and over and over again. It's embarrassing, actually, that people, that the school system would allow such ignorance to pass as a graduate. I just cannot get my head wrapped around that. It's a real shame. But what can we do about that? Well, just remember, guys, vote early and vote often. Vote your conscience. I would never tell you how to vote, but I will tell you this. If you're not voting, you're part of the problem. And you're part of the reason why I'm over here complaining about EVs not being marketed the right way. See, it's all about marketing for me. And anytime somebody tells me something that is factually incorrect, I'm going to have to call them out on it, right? So that's the issue that I have with the EVs. We keep getting them crammed down our throat when we're not even asking for them. And then in the situations that they would do really well, like off-roading, for example, provided they don't catch on fire and burn the fucking forest to the ground. But the thing is that if you put them in the right environment and you are showcasing them doing the thing that will be absolutely within their wheelhouse, it's not affecting me, the fact that they are outsourcing their emissions. I don't have to hear it. I don't have to smell it. I don't have to do whatever. It's just they're doing its own thing. Then show it in that light. There are ways to market these products that are not offensive, that still get the message across. And I guess for me, that's the biggest issue that I have. You know, where are all the EVs, by the way, that we were promised? This is the thing that's getting on my nerves a lot lately. See, we keep seeing all of these concept EVs that practically, we didn't quite have the budget to finish it. Banshee, that we keep being like, we're getting just eye banged with this Banshee that is like, it looks like it hasn't even been finished yet. We keep hearing about all these EVs that everybody seems to be coming out with, but where are they on the road? I just don't see them. Why are nobody buying these things? I thought they were going to be the second coming, and yet nobody is picking up their wallet and running to a dealership and buying these things. It's kind of weird. There's obviously the exceptions kind of to the rule with the Tesla. And I have seen more and more of the Lightning Fords running around. Although, admittedly, it is the same three that I see every day on the commute into the office. So there's that. Does that count? Anyway, I guess for me, the more I'm looking into this and the more I'm being exposed to these EVs, keeping in mind that, again, I don't have a girl working this corner. I'm not gasoline forever and all that. It just, if it works, it works, period. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it's not efficient or convenient, for me, it might be for somebody else. Beautiful. We just created a new market, and we just created jobs, and we created a convenience and something great for somebody. It's just not me. Okay. And I wouldn't hate on somebody if they're a huge lover of EVs. You know, I mean, I'm into certain things that a lot of people aren't. Other people are into things that I'm not. It doesn't mean that I hate them for that. It just means that they like something for whatever reason. And I, in general, disapprove of that thing. So, but if that one thing, like, what if somebody, it was just like Brussels sprouts? You know, Brussels sprouts are dying, motherfucker. What if that? It's nothing like that, right? But that's what it feels like. It feels like if I don't like the flavor of the dish that's in front of me, somehow or another, I'm a bad person, especially when I bring out facts. Like you cook those Brussels sprouts in, you know, fetuses. I don't think I want to eat that. Well, that's a problem. You know, okay, that's the way I feel about these EVs. It's taking common sense and common knowledge, common sense and real questions that people were asking, and they're twisting words and twisting meanings to satisfy an agenda. And the problem is good people want to defend themselves and tell folks, look, I'm trying to understand and I'm trying to learn, only to have that get thrown in the garbage. That's why I've disconnected from it. Somebody's going to act like that, I'm just like, you're too ignorant for my time. So again, I would love to see more of the EVs where they work well. But don't bring EVs into a brand. This is way around my ass to get to my elbow on this deal. Why are EVs being so strung along or hemp-tied, or however you want to call it, to the brand of Jeep? Why? Why to the brand of Jeep? You mean to tell me you can't make something that's EV enough? EVs, when they're tied to something like the Jeep or the Banshee, what they remind me of are these movie remakes, these live action movie remakes that you're seeing get put out into public consumption. Just pick one. Disney's really big into this. But it's like a redefinition of terms almost. And it's kind of a weird thing for me when I'm watching this stuff unfold. It's like you can't come up with a good enough new concept or type of vehicle, a new brand, if you will. You've got to latch this thing onto a brand with brand identity, keeping in mind that it's the brand loyalists that give a vehicle brand identity, not the brand itself. This is akin to a nickname. You cannot gloss yourself. You can only roll with what you've been glossed with. Okay, so that's exactly what happens when manufacturers try to tie a brand in, tie an EV in with a brand. It doesn't stick. All right, it falls into that cringe level. The Mustang is the first that comes to mind for a lot of folks, but anything with a Jeep badge is going to fall under that category as well. That Banshee Charger thing is one where a lot of folks, when they first saw it, they thought, the Wraith? I mean, what are you trying to accomplish? What are we looking for here? What is the end result for this? They put some cheesy ass soundtrack on this thing, and next thing you know, it just starts to really kill the favor that they thought they were going to be able to glean from these things. And so I guess when you start to break this whole thing down, it's the cringe factor. See, I would be totally cool with an EV if Dodge Mopar came out with an EV that had its own total unique look. Again, wraithy looking maybe, or hell, I don't know, something cool, something spacey looking, something wild, right? Whatever it is, I couldn't care less, but have it be its own entity. Don't try to tie it to a brand. Let it create and develop its own character and its own flavor in its own time with its own core audience. If you want to make it fast as hell, make it the fastest as hellest thing as you can. Yes, do that. But don't try to tie it to something that old heads and purists and hot rodders and fans of internal combustion are you. If you think you're going to tie that to those loyalists, you're not. You're tying it to these weird people, these fart sniffing, know nothing narcissists are who you are tying that branding to. Well, it's a Mustang, don't you know? That's what you're fucking tying it to. That's what you look like. That's why I'm not buying any of this shit that Mopar's putting out. I've been slaving over this phone and over my camera and over my webcam trying to figure out where I could find one of the cars that are coming out from Dodge in the next 5 years that I would be willing to actually shell out bread for. And I thought about this tonight. See, I was out buzzing around in this little girl right here. And the car does need a different exhaust because having reso deletes on that thing, it's a little bit too loud. I'm just not used to it. Once I get used to it, I'm fine with it, but damn. Anyway, I'm out buzzing around in this thing, and I was thinking, what is coming down the line, the assembly line that I would actually get rid of my Hellcat for, like legitimately be excited for that's up and coming. Dodge has absolutely nothing that I would be remotely interested in. They're not giving us anything to play with, and the only thing that they keep teasing is this EV. Well, what gives, Dodge? I mean, Jeep has got all of these EVs. Well, the new 2 boxes and 2 circles is coming out in 2025, and we're going to start making this thing in 2024. Who cares? It's going to be another failed attempt, a fart that's just a little bit too wet, but you send it anyway because what else are you going to do? That is what these things remind me of. It's like a bad idea, but they just can't help but make it. It's like, damn, do you freaking eat the convenience store sushi? I mean, I like me some raw fish, but damn, I ain't about to buy it from, Frank's bait shop in Gasoporium. I'm not about to go that's not where I'm looking for my sashimi, okay? But that's what you're being served up with these EVs. It's like a simulacra. Simulation is when you make something that's like something else. A simulacra is when you make something that is like something that never existed, like an idea. It's kind of the way that I understand that definition. It's the way I'm going to explain this, because they're bringing to us things that are a caricature of what you might think an electric vehicle might be, as opposed to, again, making an electric vehicle that is something that is cool and desirable, not in a tied into way, but something that has a wow factor. Fuck it. I want it to look like the Mach 5, right? Or I want it to look like, the car that from the cartoons or something. Something pretty cool. And we're not getting that. We're getting something. And this is the weird thing. You want to hear something? This is why this is strange. They are tying an electric vehicle to a specific demographic, but they're looping that demographic in with a muscle car culture type of a product. The two sides are so diametrically opposed, basically hate each other, if you will, and they're trying to tie them together. Why not just give them their own identity, one for the other, and let them work it out? Let the market sort this out. That's the main thing that I would be looking at. If it were me trying to put something like that together, marketing genius I'm not, right? But I can tell you this, I'd get it a hell of a lot more right than they have. So enough of that rant. Let me catch up with you guys. Do a little bit of a short show this evening. Ryan is in, Skids is in, what's up? Itch is in, what's up, y'all? Brent is in, No Ab is in. Eric, what's up, my man? Ryan. So he's getting a 68 AMC Javelin to put that 318 poly in. Very nice. Javelins are tough to come by. I tried to buy a 390 AMX when I lived in San Francisco, and the dude would not part ways with it. It was a white 4-speed car. Ryan's in saying no soul, talking about the EVs. I love power plants, RC cars and such. There are ways around getting rid of internal combustion engines. There's cool ways to do it too, but not the way they're doing it now. David Zinn with a thumb up. I like it. Ryan saying the event will be the death. Think about the mining of the metals. Oh yeah, there's so much that is toxic, and it's okay to talk about because these are facts. They're facts. They stand alone of any emotional tie. They stand alone from any subjective point of view. These are just facts. Period. It will be a lot more telling when these cars come up for scrap or there's issues with them in a junkyard. That's when and unfortunately it's too far down the line. Well, in some cases it's not, but anyway, when these batteries start to fail, or if you hurt one of the batteries in an accident and then it goes off and it basically blowtorches the occupants, at what point do you just say, look, I mean, these things are dangerous under certain circumstances. Anyway, back to you guys. Oh, skids. Nice. Got one more up. Happy birthday, man. Went with a gently used Harley Street Bob. Nice. It's a fun bike. I should be getting my bike back here pretty soon. Having the forks completely redone, new tires, head bearing probably, rear bearing, and new shock in the rear. I've done everything else on my own. It's got a new fuel pump. Let's see, what else? Battery. Bike's running. I mean, it runs way better than it should. I'll put it to you that way. With that can and that exhaust, it's probably somewhere around 125 horsepower to the rear wheel, which is the sweet spot. And I'm going to be doing more motorcycle content once I get that bike back. There's part of the tail section over here. For those of y'all that don't know, it's weirder for me to not have a bike than it is for me to have a bike. My first love was always motorcycles, and that's going to be something that is kind of an interesting topic for me to chat about, especially with the type of bikes that I'm into, which are all the early 2000s, late 90s bikes. All the bikes that were legitimately, how do you say it? Analog riding experience is one way to put it, but it's before all the nannies. And the way that I see it, up to a certain horsepower number, you can't really, you cannot outdrive the tires that you're riding. And all of these nannies do is, for the 200 plus horsepower bikes that are out now, all they're doing is they're keeping the power plant in line with, what these older bikes would be able to manage anyway. So you don't even get full power in some cases until 5th and 6th gear in these bikes, the new stuff. But the older stuff is a lot of fun. You can use your entire wrist on that bad boy. So anyway, Sovereign's, if Trump gets in, look, if whoever else is in next, so you can pick, whichever leader you like the most. I know a lot of people anybody is I think going to be better than the weird situations that we're having right now. So vote, though. You've got to vote. Again, vote your conscience. But you have to vote. You got to vote for everything. You need to get the habit of voting. I don't care if it's for city council, school board elections, whatever it is. Find out in your community when and where you can vote and vote. Be a part of the process. And I mean on all levels. You'd be surprised. You would be extremely surprised just how important voting can be in your local community elections. So I'd like to challenge each and every one of you guys. Number one, get registered to vote, find out where your polling locations are, and get out there and make it part of what you do and who you are to get out there and vote. It's your right, but it's your duty as well. And if you enjoy hot rods, if you enjoy doing any of the stuff that we enjoy, whether it's hot rods, the firearm stuff, motorcycles, whatever, the responsibility lies with you to keep those things alive for future generations. So get out there and do your thing, guys. Right, so you saw one of the EV Mustangs. It's not bad to look at, which it's technically not, but no, it's definitely not a Mustang. As kids say, makes you wonder if the Banshee was a teaser so everyone would run out and pay big markups on these 23 last calls. Listen, let me tell you something. Again, I am still shocked as far as how expensive these cars have become. So, you know, I can't speak to what the reason would be for car prices to go up 30-something%. But I can tell you that my car, this one, I want to say it's stickered at 67. That car now is $81,000. Huh? I mean, I still can't understand that. So anyway, it's saying, I agree. Or no, saying there's nothing environmentally good about them. No, there is not. Kelvin saying our country isn't ready to full sail switch. No, of course not. Talking about switching over to EVs. It's not a convenient choice. Something sounded healthy out there. It's not a convenient choice for a significant majority of the population anyway. Where it works well, but it's not for everybody, and it needs to be understood as such. It's just saying we ain't even close up here in Canada for sure. Right, say it's a whole culture now. Yeah, it is. It is sad. So you can say EVs are a hoax. How does it take to charge? Does it take to charge one while I'm traveling a day or more away? That is, if I can find one in the middle of Oklahoma or New Mexico, which is very true. That's part of the issue. Again, range anxiety. How do you use these cars? It depends on how you use your vehicle. Again, for some folks, it makes sense. And I've even made the argument that, look, if road trips are a thing, you can have your EV for your daily commute and just go rent an XL Suburban. You know, if you want to go cross country, you know, get you a gas-powered Suburban and you got more than enough room. Yeah, it's just, but that's not the point. I want the freedom to be able to make and choose, make whatever decisions I'm going to make and choose whatever vehicle or thing that I'm going to, vote with my money, which is to say purchase, or vote for with my money, which is again to say purchase, that service or item, goods. I want the freedom to do that and not feel like it's being mandated, which is what it feels like with these EVs. No, I'm saying, yeah, EV's got its place, so does gas, absolutely. Will's in saying, what up, be great to see you live again. Thank you very much. After owning an EV briefly, I can tell you there's more to it than just plugging it into DC. There aren't enough level 2 chargers out there yet. That's, again, exactly my point. And so one of my arguments for EVs is that you are now, in essence, you are the refinery. When you pull that car into your garage and you plug it in, you are filling it up at the garage, right? And if your range is such that you only drive 40 miles one direction, 40 miles back, you'll probably be okay throughout the course of the week with an EV. You would hope anyways, right? I mean, if your EV's got a 250 mile range and you're only eating up 80, that should be fine, right? Well, the reality is 250 mile range is really more like 180 mile range. And realistically, depending on what time of year we're talking about, that range can go down based on temperatures, which is to say if that battery gets cold, range comes down. And so now we're talking about a range that's more like 120, 130 instead of 250. That's a big difference. That's like saying that you've got a 20-gallon gas tank when sometimes you might only have a 10-gallon gas tank. That's a big problem. And so there's no education program for this. And the people that would benefit the most from it, this is the problem, they want to remain willfully ignorant of the facts and the realities that they're dealing with anyway. That is until they buy one of these things and they start really dealing with the realities of owning one. And y'all have already heard my rant about what it looks like to me when somebody's driving around with a used Tesla with paper plates like the one that I saw at the Mexican restaurant. The one that that lady was a single mom. There's like sippy cups and the thing looked like it smelled like shit diaper and Similac. I mean, it was kind of trashed. You could tell that this was absolutely somebody's second car. It was like stripper, but she got pregnant, decided to keep the kid, and it's still a flex, but it's not. Nobody really cares because nobody wants her anyway. And the kid's ugly, and it's just, that's how that worked out. But it's still this is the weird thing to me is it's this connotation that it just starts to carry. Anyway, these are all the backstory that I'm generating and contriving in my head as I'm looking at this thing while I'm waiting for one of my clients to show up. And it was just really funny because I had this whole thing played out and planned out and whatever in my head as far as how this person came to this used child infested Tesla piece of shit that I was sitting there looking at. So anyway, EVs in rural areas, forget it. I probably wouldn't do it. Base, I'd rather eat my own spleen. I hear you. Oh, Skids hanging out with WTE. Yeah, where do you find it? I don't know where you do. Jeremy the Jetsons. We'll talk. Say, hanging out with Skids. If you want to do a road trip, you got to plan it out. That's the thing. It's going to be part of the experience, if you will. And Kelvin's saying, look, if you want to make it better, invest in the infrastructure, which is true. And look, it's not like you can't. This is the problem. It's not like you can't charge at any gas station an EV, right? I mean, they all have electricity. I mean, those lights ain't powered by, magic. But it's how much voltage and how much amperage, I should say, amperage is really more the point. Can that part or can that lot manage? I guess you could plug it into the wall and, in a week you would have a charged up car. So by that metric, I guess we've got infrastructure, but it's not what you would expect and not what you would want. This kid's talking about trying to plan your route out. Yeah, forget it. So I'm saying, hit the smash the like button. Yes. Oh, Bay saying I agree. Yeah, develop the following. Don't try to force feed it to us or anybody, really. Jeremy's saying there is nothing coming down the pipe. The fact is new cars are too damn expensive. Real talk on that. EV are even more expensive. Reality came to the front. These manufacturers realize it's death. It's going to bankrupt them. So you've got a lot of folks. Toyota is one of them that's saying, look, we're just not going to be in the game. Call it however you want to call it, but we're just not going to be a part of that little charade that you're putting on with these EVs because we understand the realities of the market And we don't, what it looks like is it looks like manufacturers are aiming for a bailout. And what they're going to say is, just like look at GM, struggling like crazy. You can already see the writing on the wall with that, where somebody would say, look, we're following your mandates and we're going broke. You got to give us some money. We got to have a loan floated to us. Some kind of a bailout. We're doing what y'all told us to do, and you're putting us out of business. And I mean, that's where this is going. Unfortunately, it's left to the rest of us to suffer through all of this. And it's, I'd hate to be somebody young that is trying to find a new car, that they want to have an EV. That's where their mind's at, and they want to go for that. It would suck if I were in that situation and you can see that bubble about to be burst. It's just going to be a matter of time when somebody is shelling out $600, $700, $800 a month for a used electric vehicle that is now giving them fits and they have no real recourse. Not to mention what happens when they do break. The cost that's incurred there is astronomical. So where are the boutique shops popping up? Why aren't they popping up yet? Well, when I say boutique shops, what I'm talking about is where are the small, specialist shops that cater to the EV community? You don't see that. You don't see, I don't know, Bobby's, EV fix them up and shop. You don't see that. You're not seeing that. And the reason why is because nobody wants to deal with it. Nobody wants to work on it. Look, one of these batteries has, 50 kilowatts is a small one, right? A 50 kilowatt battery is like what you would find in a Honda Leaf. There's enough energy in that battery when it's fully charged to run like 4 or 5 arc welders, right? So what happens if you accidentally touch the green wire to the orange wire and the thing basically turns itself into a carbon arc spotlight right there on the lift, right? Can that happen? Listen, there are a lot of things you can do working on a gasoline powered car that will ruin your day, but there's not a lot of things that if you accidentally, drop a 10 millimeter wrench onto the wrong post that will cause anything more than something like a sparkler going off. These batteries ain't a sparkler going off, okay? It's like 5 or 8 houses with every light switch and every mechanical air conditioner, heater, overhead fart fan, lights, hair dryers, hair curlers, vibrators, whatever, going off at the same time in every single house at once. Remember that story I told y'all about when I was just about hit by lightning? That's basically what it would be if you fuck up with one of these batteries with one of those cars, and that is the end of you. Okay, so on one hand, you drop the wrench, you pick it up, and it goes bzz because it arcs across the battery. Haha, whoopsie. In this case, you basically take yourself out, you incinerate everything and everyone around you, including the building, and you don't go home that night. That's why people aren't really going out of their way to open up shops that cater to EVs. There's far too much risk, far too many caustic chemicals that, by the way, are far and away more toxic to the living organism than just a little bit of gasoline or some motor oil. And there is a very real and present risk of the equivalent of being electrocuted instantly and violently just because you sneeze while you're working on the thing, or that Yeah, there's a breach in the battery. There's a damage. In other words, there's a damage with that battery that you don't know of, and it goes into runaway thermal decomposition, which is that's a real fancy way of saying that the battery basically starts to arc internally. That's when everything goes up, and that's when you have all kinds of problems. Again, you're not seeing Franco's Auto Shop working on EVs for that exact reason. Had a friend of mine, this is over 10 years ago, matter of fact, 12 years ago, that was telling me about EVs, and it's a buddy of mine works at a restoration shop, and real talented dude too, man. I wish you guys could meet him. Buddy of mine up in NorCal, Paul, miss you, bro. Super talented guy though. And but I remember him telling me specifically that he would never touch one of those things because of how dangerous that they were. And this is that long ago, when all we really were looking at were Tesla Roadsters that were on the side of the road on fire because they were up in the mountains blasting those things. Anyway, getting back to it. Ardell saying, so true, Will Talk, hanging out with WTE. Don't buy one in Montana for sure. Some are saying gas powered is just more reliable and cheaper to fix. True that. Base saying GSX R1000 was and still is a very nasty bike. Really good bike too, durable as hell. I like the GSX R1000. I will always lean more to the Cowie. I will always be more comfortable on a Honda, and I will always want an R1, but the Triumphs always fit right. And besides, the new leader class bikes, motorcycles get weird at about the 175 horsepower and up range. When you start getting into that range, fast is that you can say that something is fast, but there's a blur. It's almost like they blur reality. Once you start getting 175, 185, 195, they really start getting like unrealistically fast. Like you can't use the power unless you're on an wide open track. I mean, I guess you could if you're just making a highway blast or you're doing like mile events or something, but nobody really does that realistically on the highway. And I know guys that have tuned up leader class bikes and some of the open class bikes. You know, you're putting, 195, 205, 210 to the rear wheels. Just not my cup of tea, man. I like stuff that's manageable. Those bikes a lot of times they're Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They're actually can be really docile until you get those things over about 7,000 RPM, and then the entire world changes. But anyway, getting back to it. Oh, Skid saying, yes, bikes for all the riders' age. I feel you. I can't wait to see the T in action. I can't wait to get it on the road. Here's the really cool part about the Triumph. So I have not had a bike since I moved back to Texas, and that has been a hot minute. I've been back in Texas for the better part of a decade now. What was crazy though is that when I got the Triumph running and threw a leg over it, it fired up. I had the seats on. All the fluids have been worked through it. Flushed, drained, the whole bit. And the bike was where you just grab the clutch, bump the starter, fires right up. And this is before I did I had to remake the idler control circuits and all of that. But the first time I rode that bike, it was as though I had only taken a week off. I absolutely had zero saddle rust when it came to riding that bike. And that was weird to me. I was really expecting to be a little bit rusty. And the first thing I noticed was, man, this thing needs to be faster. Not that you want more power, you just want to be able to run it. And I couldn't because the tires are 11 years old on that thing, and you don't want to get to playing around with a bike with old tires like that anyway. But new tires and everything else will be back on the bike, and I'll do a walk around once I get it and get all the body work put back on it. It was 11. No, it was a 1,000 for the GSXR. So I'm saying vote. Oh, Brent's talking about the cars going up in price because of the strike. Well, we're a little bit before the strike, and we're already seeing big issues there in terms of costing. Been seeing it now for a while. They said, I try not to talk about politics. We need to drain the swamp. There's a lot we need to do. Get some common sense in these chairs, man. It's just, it used to be the way America got things done was, you know, we had an educated masses that knew what was best and understood, I should say, what was best. And that's not the case anymore. Ryan saying, as American citizens, our sovereign right and duty to vote. Also, it is a civil responsibility as a citizen too. 100%. You got to do it, guys. I know it's not fun. I know that it's tough to keep up with, but you got to make it a point. You need to look. You need to mark your calendar. Make it important. Listen, if I told you that I would give you $100 if you went out and voted today, you would make it a point to get out there and vote today. Well, think of it like that. I mean, it means more than money. It means more than anything. You have to be a part of the process. You know, they say that if you don't vote, you can't complain. I don't believe that at all. I say that if you don't vote, you get what you have coming to you. You get what you deserve, and so you get what you have to complain about when you're not a part of the system. So if you vote and you spread the word, then you won't have anything to complain about because the right people will be making the right policies that help all of us. You know, that help the folks that need the help. That put and prop up the people and put into power the people that can help to drive us forward in a positive way. Oh, Jeremy, early 1900s, they had electric cars for government and city cars, but were not worth the investment. That's why they got rid of them. Here's the weird thing. In the early 1900s, electric, if there were enough of a range to them, they would have, I mean, gas just wouldn't have been a thing. But in the city, they made perfectly good sense, which for me makes perfectly good sense. I mean, when you think about it, electric does an amazing job in the city where you need something like that, but not in, we're talking about a small square miles of an area, not an entire state, if you will. That's not how reality works. Sorry, swamp has some stinky water. Oh, skids, yeah, GSXR 1000. Yeah, they're all 998. They're just going to come in sub 1000. Jeremy, we just repainted a bumper on a 1500 Laramie. Sticker price was 90 large. What the hell? Skids, yeah, Professor Brown, get that train up to 88. Yep. Kurt's saying, what about towing boats? Yeah, the towing thing doesn't work out real well. Centuriers, hopefully I'm saying that right. Should I buy power stop brake pads and rotors for a BMW X3? I like power stop. What about put on mine? The X or whatever it is, 26s? They're actually pretty good. Oh, Ardell said I went drag racing this past weekend and it was a blast. Nice. I hot lapped my Hellcat 24 times. Very nice. Had great times. This is the last event for the season here in Montana before winter. Gotcha. Glad you went out there and had fun, man. That's the most important thing. Glad you're having fun with it. I was going to say the old pay and drive Tesla. Sure, the range on it's fine, though. Carl saying, Mopars and bikes. Now we're talking. My current garage consists of my manual Barton 2019 Scat Pack Shaker. Very nice. And a 2021 Ducati Street Fighter V4S. Fun bike. You know, so the latest crop of bikes that are out now, I've been trying to play catch up on this, guys. So forgive my admittedly ignorant ass when it comes to bikes, because I'm still kind of stuck in, 2015, 2012 when it comes to bikes. And for me, I like this. What's weird for me is just how few sport bikes we really have, but I'm glad to see other bikes coming up. Obviously the MV Agusta and the Triumph Speed Triple, they've got some new kind of retro hot rod looking motorcycles that look really good, but these things are all like 175, 180 horsepower. But yeah, the Ducatis are looking really good these days. You've got the V-Twins and the V4. Was really looking at the V-Twin, 155 horsepower, 995 cc, if memory serves me, or 955 cc on that one, which would be right up my alley. It's perfect for me in terms of power, flickability. I probably with something like that would get back into doing track days. The 595 is not a track day bike at all. I am putting Rossi 3s on it, but that's just for, blasting around down here. It is not going to see any track days. If I do get a track bike, it'll almost have to be another GSX-R 750. I just had so much fun with that bike, and it's a forgiving bike too. So in the tracks that I would be running it at, or at least the track I would be running it at, is not a super long, super technical track. So it would be, it would just be right up the alley of a 750. Something without a lot of straights. Decent sweepers, a little bit of fun. That would be really what I would be looking at. But damn, anything with two wheels is going to be fun. Oh, Ryan saying substation every gas station. Absolutely. Complex is in. Oh, got the cadence with the bald guy in the shades. I like it. Oh, Kurt's asking about the strike. Yeah, UAW is talking about a strike. Ardell saying, yeah, there's very few charging stations in Montana. For sure. Very, very few. Ryan. 440 clip buster. Black & Decker vaginal scrambler. Let's see. Sovereign lithium-ion batteries are extremely volatile. So lithium-ion is not super bad. Lithium ferrous is stable, but it's expensive. And that's the Li-Fe. If you guys are into RCs, that's Li-Fe batteries, which are high density, almost as high as lithium polymer, but lithium polymer is the twitchiest of all of them. But they also have the most power. The Sovereign thermal runaway. You better believe it. You better run away, too. Skids saying, good evening, everybody. Glad to have you back, B. Thank you, Skids. Ardell's asking, what about extremely cold temperatures? Up there where you are, brother? Probably not. And that's a big issue. Jeremy's saying the shop I work at looked into being a Tesla repair shop, but the insurance was way too high. Plus, the fire marshal would not allow it near a main road. See what I mean? These are facts. These are facts of being a shop like that. These are the things he'd be working against. The city was not feeling it because we're on the main road in the center of town. That's right. Oh, Jeremy Carl, V4 is nice. Yes. saying, or on a golf course. The golf cart is a tried and tested electric vehicle. Well, yeah, in that environment, but it's also using a lead acid battery. And this is where, so there is an argument that a lot of folks say, well, there's never a runaway with a golf cart. I mean, you never hear about that stuff. That's right, because golf carts usually are not using lithium style batteries. They're using lead acid batteries, which are incredibly durable. Like, you can't hurt them type of a thing. And if you did, it's sulfuric acid, which is pretty caustic, but at least you're not going to have to worry about, I mean, lead does not have the twitchiness that lithium does. So, yes. Arthur is in. What's up, Arthur? Oh, Jeremy's, I like the Ducati Super Sport. Looks great. 100 horsepower, more than enough power for daily. Yep. I mean, the thing is that, okay, so for you guys that don't know or aren't really into bikes, motorcycles are typically about 10 years ahead of cars when it comes to technology or just how they can sometimes, how do I explain this? You can see where people are in terms of headspace with when you're talking to bike guys. And a lot of it's very present when you look at the sport bike market, where you don't really have the sport bikes that you used to have. Getting out in the marketplace. You've got manufacturers like Triumph that don't even have a Daytona anymore. You've got the big four Japanese manufacturers who are kind of, although their bikes are more neutered than the European bikes, a little bit of tweaking, and they're all on about the same even playing field, but they're throwing every nanny that they can, whether it's wheelie control, traction control, all kinds of different nannies and rider aids, to where they neuter the bike to the point where you might as well not even have the power that is available out of that engine. You're not allowed to have it until either fourth gear, fifth gear, well, always in sixth, but fourth gear or fifth gear is when you actually have full control and full power with those things. And for me, that's kind of weird, because if you only have full power, access to real full power in fourth gear and up, you're not going to, this thing's about to check out. Hang on a second, y'all. Hang on. Let me plug this thing in, give it some, let's start talking about charging things. Where the hell's my, oh, I took it out of here. Oh no, that's right, I took it with me today. I'm gonna have to start wrapping it up here pretty quick. Anyway, the reality of bikes is that you can see where guys start to get a little bit sick of the hyper super performance, where you have more of an outlier that will build a turbo GSX-R 1000 or a turbo Busa or a turbo ZX14. The real insane nutty stuff is still out there, but it doesn't get it's not as mainstream, and it's not as mainstream, and the guys that do it, they blow their stuff up so much that you don't even see them on Craigslist. I mean, it's not like you see it's a LS swapped RX-7. You might see something like that on Marketplace. It's rarer to see these hot rod bikes because, number one, they're just flat out insanity. And anyway, there is a more real sense of this machine will kill you, as opposed to being your buddy and y'all are just out hanging out having fun, which is, to me, at about 160, 170 horsepower, it ain't your buddy anymore. There is a real world, real weird scenario that can take place where you're out there playing around with it on the street, rolling to the throttle, and you've heard me talk about Hellcats, where you kind of end up at 120 miles an hour. You don't really even notice it. These bikes, the newer bikes, will do the same thing, except it's happening at about 10 or 12% faster than even modified Hellcats will get you to those numbers. So these older bikes are a lot more raw, a lot more usable power, real power for track or the street, and they don't have any nannies or any aids whatsoever. It is all as raw as it gets. And so that's why I like these 130 to 160 horsepower bikes, is that they're just so real and real fun to ride. Plus, when they're around 130 to 150 horsepower, they always have the big displacements, so you get a big chunk of torque. All of them make 75 foot-pounds of torque. So 1,000cc bikes make 75, 600 will make 55, the 750s make 65, and so they're real predictable with the torque output that they make. One bike that I have to say I really liked, but I would probably never own another one, is an RC51 though. The only reason why I say that is I miss my RC51, but it is as close to an electric motorcycle as you can get, where it's all torque and no horsepower with that bike. Sorry, no, that's funny. Jeremy saying, I got to clean my carbs on my 600 Katana and get on it. 600 Katana was a cool bike. So I'm saying the only bike I ever owned was a 77 Honda Trail 90. It was ugly, but it was fun. Yes, those are cool bikes. But with that, guys, I do have to wrap it up because I got to wake up crazy early in the morning. Listen, y'all, I want to thank each and every one of y'all for hanging out with me. Could not, would not do this without you. Love each and every one of y'all. Get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way, way more than you know. Get out there and vote. And with that, that is a wrap. Y'all have a great one. Adios.